conspiracy theorist, and here are some things in my old books that make me question the narrative. Accounts of entire regions ruled by giants, and tribes with the heads of dogs. This sounds crazy and impossible until you realize legends of these beings exist across almost every ancient culture. So are these accounts fake or from a world before it was rewritten? Descriptions of technology that doesn't quite fit the timeline. Sprawling underground tunnels, entire mountains caved out, complex canal systems, precision cut underground vaults, and stonework with magical mechanisms. And we're told these people just had hammer and chisels and limited tech? Something's not adding up. Field reports of mythological creatures like dragons, descriptions of what they looked like, where they lived, how they were hunted, what the locals had to say about them, and what their organs were used for. So how are they describing creatures that we are told never existed? All I have to say is, if the news is fake, imagine how bad our history is. But I'm just a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, conspiracy theories. What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a fact? About 3 months. How you going, guys? Campbell here, autodidactic. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And today, lots going on in the world, right? With all this digital ID stuff. So we're going to check out a bit of that and some other things that are going on in this strange realm we find ourselves in. So let's get into it.
The ramifications to this video, the findings of this video are so shocking that I need to hear other people recreate this. And if this is true, then our entire world can change very quickly. Listen to this, absolutely shocking, and let me know your thoughts.
What if intuition was a state of water, a kind of etheric antenna? You see, I've observed that after placing a sunflower seed in water, removing and freezing using a crystallographic method, the water doesn't design the seed, but rather it reads the potential in the seed and designs the outcome, the sunflower. Here are examples of water doing the same thing with apple seeds and flax seeds. So what if the water in us shares and receives information to and from the water in the air around us, which on a very subtle level is attracted to the human biofield, which is electrical and magnetic? Since it appears that water reads potentials as demonstrated in my seed examples, then perhaps the water in us uses our electrical charge to probe all potential outcomes simultaneously like a quantum computer and returns back with the most likely outcome, which we all call intuition.
So intuition is the water in our body seeing the potential of outcomes, quantumness. Like, this is incredible. The shockingest part, you put a freaking seed in water, you freeze the water. If you didn't catch that, that's what she did. She froze the water. And the water froze into the shape, the look of a sunflower. But she just put a seed in it. This is real. Recreate this study. She did it with apples and freaking alfalfa sprouts or flax seeds. Now, this is reminding me of Masaru Emoto, if you guys remember, the Japanese man who they say his studies were never proven and but meanwhile, we know he was onto something there with the freezing the water. Plus the snowflake thing too. I mean, water is, from my understanding and research, actually conscious. It's not this inanimate thing. It has its own consciousness, it's self-organizing, and it has memory. It retains memory. So there's a lot to water that we know nothing about, which we were never told, but I'm sure if this woman knows about it, if I know about it, how could you tell me that deep underground military bases with limitless budgets and boards of the most brilliant scientists in the world are just unaware that water has these incredible properties and powers?
Yeah, water definitely is programmable. And like you said, Dr. Emoto showed that, and many people have done, their own experiments proving the same thing. But I mean, that seed was cool, right? A seed, and what the water showed was the potential of that seed. So that's very interesting. And then the whole intuition thing is the water inside us. So what do you think of this concept? Is water conscious, do you think? Because it definitely has lots of conscious traits, right? And of course, the old world was built around water, right? And that's where the ultimate currency comes from, right? The current and the sea, water currents, the water banks, the banks of the river. And of course, they've, co-opted that into maritime law, but, there's a lot of language around water.
Somebody takes water and puts it out in the sun, it instantaneously brings back its magnetic charge, and that water becomes very healing. That's where the whole soul water came from. People would take, for example, a glass of water, place some salt in there to increase the electrical conductivity, and then they place it out in the sun, and it would magnetically charge the water and increase the electrical conductivity at the same time. Amber says, do a post on how they used to make kids suck on silver spoons when they got ill to help them heal faster. Silver is a conductive material. So if you put a silver spoon in your mouth, you're increasing the conductivity of your body. So if you're under the influence of illness, which is known as sickness or dis-ease, putting that silver spoon in your mouth will help bring back the conductivity and heal the body. And when we think of the olden times, everybody had silver spoons. All of their food would touch silver spoons. Silver spoons exert conductivity. So if you think about it, if you're eating with a conductive material the entire time, you're keeping the life force of your food. Now, if you take a plastic fork and put it in your mouth, which is derived from DuPont, you're losing the conductivity, which would make it so that you would not be able to repair as fast. And somebody just said, born with a silver spoon in their mouth. That is the beautiful conductivity that is going into the body. And silver, very valuable resource. When we get into this old world and the world fairs in St. Louis and Chicago and New York City and Philadelphia, silver is everywhere. All silver is all over the place. Silver, gold, brass, bronze, copper, all these materials.
Yes, wow. Thanks, Matt from Cultivate Elevate. Yeah, we're ultimately electric beings, right? Like, science and the food industry love to tell us it's all balls, right? Little spheres floating around, all these molecules, and they talk about calories and kilojoules and energy potentials and all this stupid stuff, right? That they've been spruiking for, since the 60s and 70s. And what's the end result? The population is fatter and more unhealthy than ever. So it's clearly crap, right? But so we're electrical systems. So is that where we should be putting our focus as far as health? Right? Increasing our electric conductivity by placing water in the sun, definitely salt in water, a little bit of salt, good salt, Celtic sea salt, is good. The electrolytes, right? We need them, which proves we're electric, right? We're frequency. So, and copper, like I've got copper on my wrists, um, and I've got, well, this interesting thing around my neck, which is basically a magnetic stone that comes from Bosnia. It came out of one of those massive spheres, the stone spheres that got broken. But what do you do? And how do you see yourself? Do you think it's all electric, or do you think it's all kilojoules and calories and everything? And do you wear copper? Do you drink with salt? Like, let me know what you do to increase your electrical conductivity.
Legalese is a whole language of its own. It's a complete legal jargon that's not really designed for anybody to understand it other than those that are supposedly supposed to be enforcing it. And it's something that's so complicated that not even police officers understand what they're saying.
What is wonderful is that they create their own language called legalese, and it has a completely different interpretation from English. We're supposed to have this sort of understanding that we were within the law, and yet they're not even using the same language as we are.
It's just jargon that no one really understands, and because no one really understands it, no one ever questions it. We basically have a discussion that everybody is taught incorrect, but because everybody's taught incorrect, they believe it's correct.
The easiest way to understand legalese is to realise that there are many English words that have more than one meaning, depending on whom you are talking to. If I were to ask you what a person was, you'd probably say a human being, but that's you or I. If you were talking to someone in the law society, i.e. a police officer, lawyer, judge, etc., they have a different dictionary to you or I, and person could mean company or corporation, i.e. the legal fiction.
Yes, are you this person? That's what they ask all the time, right? And that's they're trying to contract with you and get you to admit or to at least say that you are a corporate fiction, which is basically an employee, right, of the corporation, the corporation, which only deals with dead people. But yeah, legalese, Black's Law Dictionary is the legalese dictionary. And so I guess a good question to ask if you ever find yourself in court, the first question is, what dictionary are we using to define the words that we use today? Is it Black's Law or is it Oxford? Because they're completely different books with completely different meanings.
Do you remember when that video went viral of the microwave plate and people realizing that the indentation on this plate that sits in the gear that turns the plate in the microwave is the same shape as the radiation symbol? Well, the crazy thing is, a lot of people are saying, that's no big deal, man, it's just because the gear in there. But it is interesting that it could be any other shape than the radiation symbol. But here's the crazy part. And you know what's crazy about microwaves is that it's about the only appliance that you have never seen a commercial for. Yet it's in all of our homes. Unless you're like me and you got rid of your microwave. But there is something so crazy about microwaves, so much more than it's a frequency that excites the molecules and makes it warm up. But you cannot speak about it on Instagram. In fact, if you ask Google, are microwaves safe? You'll have to go to page 100 before you see any variance of an opinion on the matter. They're all absolutely 100% use it, it's great, it's an amazing invention. Never mind what Russia did in the 1960s regarding microwaves.
What did Russia do? I don't know. Does anyone know? Let me know in the comments. And do you have a microwave? I personally haven't owned or used a microwave in, I mean, it's got to be decades. Like, really, it'll be more than 20 years. Um, yeah, so do you still use one? Let me know.
From 1788 to 1820, Australia was said to be a simple outpost for prisoners, and we're told even before that, before the colonizers arrived, it was hunter and gatherers, just like in America. No real infrastructure was yet put in place. And also, just like in America, these convicts were some artsy MFers. Between 1788 and 1868, over 165,000 convicts were shipped to Australia, and they're credited with building everything. Roads, bridges, ports, and public buildings. Even in Western Australia, these prisoners are said to have built the prisons that they'd spend the rest of their lives in. And from 1855 to 1859, these bad boys are said to have built Great Hall at the University of Sydney. Now, mind you, this is just 70 years after colonization, when there was supposedly nothing here. And a place that looks like that and is named like that has to have a huge pipe organ, right? But that was supposedly added later in the 1880s. And you know, if a freshly built city has a university that looks like that with a ginormous pipe organ, you already know post office is going to look like this. This post office was said to have been built from 1866 to 1891. Not from convict labor, though. These were hired hands, supposedly. But convict labor did quarry the stone. It's said that the sculptor that carved these faces onto the post office was criticized for doing it. But we should all know by now that that's just a silly little story to hide the fact that there wasn't a sculptor. And these are the people that probably built this, or their gods. And of course, it wasn't just Sydney. This is Brisbane's town hall, built in 1 year, 1891 to 1892, right when an economic crash was going on. And before Brisbane's town hall was erected, their custom house was in 1886 to 1889. And we can't forget about Brisbane's Treasury building, which is said to have been built in between 1886 and 1928. Yeah, just in different stages. It was possible. And I can't make this video without talking about Melbourne's World's Fair, right? This is the Royal Exhibition Building. It covered 64 acres, and it was done in 18 months. And this 1880 Royal Exhibition Building was not like the other ones. This was built to last. This was not temporary. It still stands there today. But looking at it, you know it's just one of those buildings that they walked up to and they go, okay, what's the narrative for this one? We're not going to be able to tear this bad boy down. And even Brisbane's exhibition building was built to last. Not temporary, still there today. It was built in 12 months with only 300 workers, supposedly. There was 1.3 million bricks used. Magnificent and very Moorish. Again, I mean, can you imagine walking up to these and go, just like, what are we going to do? What's the plan here? I mean, the project manager for all these lies had to have been pulling his hair out. Had to have been. He died early, for sure. All right, Paul, Paul, go put your horse and buggy in front of it. We're going to take a picture of it and say we just built it, okay? Oh, and by the way, the steeple on Sydney's post office, yeah, it was cut off because of World War II air raids. They were scared, so they cut it off. And then they built it back up. Weird how that happens so much, right? And another unbelievable part about Sydney is that there are tunnels everywhere. I mean, everywhere. They just go left, right, up, down. And here you have the butthole of Sydney right there. Told you. The same stories. The same megalithic architecture. Impossible to do at that time. We must have been much, much more than we were led to believe, right? Let's try to get back there. Love y'all, and have a good day.
Yes, old Australia. Of course, I'm in Australia, from Australia. I'm descended from one of those convicts, or so they say. But yeah, there's some crazy, crazy architecture in Australia. And of course, being, founded in 1788, they say, Captain Cook rocked up in Botany Bay in Sydney. So we don't have much time to put the narrative in. So we in Australia have all these buildings that, just like America and other countries, but we have this small narrative. So buildings everywhere built in a year, built in 2 years, 20 buildings built by the same architect who won a competition and, then didn't have any skills, but went on to build the best buildings out there and all by convict labor, right? It's a really silly story. So yeah, are you in Australia? What's your favorite old world building with the silliest story? Let me know in the comments.
Did you know that intermittent hypoxia is the fastest way to become superhuman? It unlocks the ability to create stem cells in your body at a zero-cost method. It reduces stress. It allows you to be calm when everyone else is panicking. It creates peace when there's chaos. By doing continuous breathing like this, you drop the CO2 in your body, and then holding your breath on the exhale raises CO2 within the body, which creates a stress response. And then your body starts to produce endogenous drugs like EPO, stem cells, and growth hormone. They don't want you to know this because stem cells are $25,000 a pop. They don't want you to know this because it allows you to become superhuman and break free from the matrix. It allows you to remember who you are, who you've forgotten. It allows you to wake up after you've numbed yourself for so many years. If this message found you, it's the universe's way of letting you know that it's time to start breathing again. The way you breathe is the way you live. Make sure to follow me and like this content so you'll see more like it, and I'll teach you how to find your way back home to yourself.
The way you breathe is the way you live. I think I like that. And it's true, right? People who breathe calmly are normally calm. And people who are, frazzled and stressed, they breathe faster, right? Which we know is not good for your health. So do you do breathing, right? Intermittent hypoxia. Basically, that's breath work where you hold your breath. And this is the thing about breathing, right? There's actually 4 stages to breathing. It's not just in, out. It's actually in, hold, out, hold. It should be this cycle thing. And of course, most of us don't breathe like that. We don't really even look at breathing as a thing, but clearly it's one of the things that keeps us alive. So we probably should learn how to do it correctly.
The UK is officially a dictatorship under Keir Starmer's Labour government, let me explain. So we're all aware by now of the digital IDs, the crackdown on free speech, the Online Safety Act and the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill, all being implemented in an attempt to control every aspect of our lives. Well, now the UK government are taking it one step further and pushing for total dietary control. They started recently by forcing Nando's to stop refillable soft drinks. Then just the other day they introduced carbon score allowances to sandwiches, which insinuates that when the digital IDs begin rolling out, you won't even be able to choose what you eat if it exceeds what the government deemed to be too bad for the environment. And now there are even reports of the Labour government banning birthday cakes for kids at nurseries. Now, I'm all for healthy living. I live very healthily myself. But what makes the government think they can dictate what your kids eat in general, let alone on their birthdays? This is the exact totalitarian control I warned everyone about. The digital IDs were never about immigration. They're about your finances, your freedoms, your lifestyle choices. And the minute you decide to sign up for one is the exact same minute that you decide to sell yours and your future generation's souls to the government. I'm personally going to continue fighting this, so if you're with me, drop a follow and let's build a community capable of doing it together.
Well, we all know it's coming, and the UK are the first, right? They're feeling the brunt. Are you in the UK? And what's really going on over there, right? Obviously, I can only see through the 2D world, right? Which, how much do we know if that is true? It's a weird place to be, right? But what's going on in the UK and what are your plans? Like, how are you going to get around this? Because what I've been hearing coming out of Kia's mouth is, well, disturbing to say the least.
So I've found a direct link between the UK's digital ID system and the US, sitting quietly inside one government contract. It's not on any headline news, it's not in any mainstream media, so I'm hoping that you can share this, because this isn't conspiracy, it's a contract. And I haven't heard anyone talking about it. You see, the contract given to the company to design the new digital identity service already works on the NHS login, managing biometric verification for health data. And the same company in 2024 partnered with a US firm called Easy Dynamics, which builds identity proofing systems for the US government. So inside one government contract you find that bridge. Nobody voted for it, nobody debated it, but it's happening quietly in code, not law. The company's name is Barucho Identity Limited. You see, the contract runs straight from Whitehall to Washington. You see, that partnership doesn't mean that your data is automatically being given to the US, but it does mean the technologies, standards, and design principles behind the UK are being shaped by companies operating in both, which opens the door for digital IDs or verification processes being recognised across borders. Now, I did also share an audiobook yesterday naming the company, and I'll also be sharing soon a free downloadable booklet with all the information.
Yes, well, I mean, I think we all understand this is a realm-wide push, a conspiracy, right? A group of people getting together, making plans for everyone else without telling them. And this is rolling out everywhere. Of course, Australia is just before Christmas. I think it's December. They're apparently bringing it in. And obviously Canada, UK, Vietnam's already fallen, but if we can believe what we hear. But the US, there hasn't been a lot of talk about it in the US, has there? But there's no way that this global, group of people, the globalists who want us to believe we're on a spinning ball, there's no way they're going to leave out the USA, is there? So, I mean, I've been wondering with this government shutdown stuff and the internet going on and off, what's really going on in the background? What are they setting up? Because I'm pretty sure that they want 2026 to be the first year of digital ID. And clearly, this is one that we can't lose. We have to stand up and refuse this, like all of us, more even than what happened in 2020. because this is the complete lockdown. It's part two, right? It's all been one big agenda, but this is what they want. So it's time that we say no.
China, do your research and see how the Chinese are living under communism. It is not good. The digital ID! We say no to digital ID! We say no to digital ID! We say no to digital ID!
And remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh, yes, they would.
Oh, yes, they would. And they are. And they always have been. Yeah, good on the UK for saying no, getting on the streets and making their voices heard. I don't know how well protests don't seem to work, right? We've had lots and they never change anything, but getting around like-minded people is good, getting together, gathering. But the ultimate thing is we have to just not sign on, right? We have to find alternatives, even if that means, building new communities, which really, it's pushing us in the direction we want to go, right? Like we understand the system's fake and it's against us, and now the internet's fake and it's just a big data harvesting center. There's not a lot left for us there. So maybe, this is going to be the push we need to break free. What do you think? And in the second one, like we've seen this, we've spoken about this before, the mass immigration, which is, of course, what all the UK protests started out as because of the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis, which is going on all throughout Europe, in Australia, and of course, US have now got ICE. They're sort of doing the opposite. I think they're just testing the waters, right? See which works best, but they're definitely trying to divide us and cause distractions so that we don't look at what they are doing behind the scenes.
Let's compare a little bit. Two countries. The Canadian population is 40 million. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is 38 million. Now, Saudi Arabia is a huge oil exporter, right? They're the second largest oil reserve in the entire world. They also have a lot of silica. Saudi Arabia's wealth is based on these two commodities, these two assets. Meanwhile, Canada, we have oil, and we're the third largest proven oil reserve in the world. We have forestry, shit ton of lumber, right? We have coal, we have hydroelectricity, we have natural gas, we have fisheries, we have diamond, we have copper, we have nickel, we have iron ore, we have aluminum, we have silver. We have so many natural resources, way more than Saudi Arabia, right? Well, Saudi Arabia's national debt is $260 billion compared to Canada's national debt of $2.1 trillion. Now, I'm sure it collects taxes, right? Nope. Personal income tax in Saudi Arabia is a fat 0%. Meanwhile, the national average per person in Canada is 40%. But, yeah, sure, we have free healthcare. Well, Saudi Arabia also has free healthcare, but they also offer financial support directly to their citizens. The government will give you approximately $150,000 to put towards your first property. The government gives you a bunch of benefits, and yet we have the same population, but we have probably 1,000 times more wealth potential locked in our ground that we refuse to touch. And yet we are indebted, almost 100 times more indebted, and we offer nothing for free to people that they don't offer. They offer more to their citizen than we receive, and on top of that, they're not taxed on their income, whereas we pay nearly half of our income to taxes.
Yes, I mean, Canada is not looking in good shape at the moment. So hello to everyone in Canada. Hope you're doing well. Say no, just say no. Same in Australia. Like we've got so many natural resources, and they literally give them away. Like our natural gas is given away. Our waterways, our rivers and things are leased on 100-year leases, right? So farmers have to pay for water that's just flowing past them, right? The Port of Melbourne, right? One of the biggest ports in Australia, the Port of Melbourne is leased to the Chinese. It's absolutely crazy. And of course, all the iron ore and coal and everything else. Um, we're like Canada. We're one of the highest tax countries in the world. We've got the highest inflation, the highest cost of housing. It costs more to buy a house in Australia or in Sydney than it does in Tokyo, which is crazy, right? Australia has so much land and such a small population. But yeah, basically, this is the plan, right? It's really, they want us to own nothing. They don't really care if we're happy. They just want us to be quiet, right? Um, so yeah, it's time to start rolling this back. I mean, to me, the only solution is they've all just got to go. We've just got to stop ignoring them because the main problem is not leaders. The main problem is followers.
Okay, so I just tried this, and I at first thought this guy was doing it wrong. You are going to be absolutely shocked if you go to the measurement tool on Google Earth and do a couple different continents. Do Australia, no problem. Just put a circle around a continent, and it's going to calculate for you the square root and all that. But if you try to do that to Antarctica, and again, this makes no sense. If Antarctica is this continent, as they tell us, this should be easy to do. And I'm in no way questioning how Google Earth works and if it's part of an agenda, but just watch what happens once he completes this measurement. It doesn't let you measure the size of Antarctica on Google Earth. And same thing with the North Pole. Try to just circle that area, put a freaking cube around it for all you want. It will not freaking measure what's going on with this tool. What does this tell you about the truth?
Well, Google Earth, it's clearly just renderings and images that they make up. I mean, it's comical at the moment. Like literally, some of the buildings, if you zoom in on them, that they look like they're from a video game. It's crazy. Uh, or Antarctica is interesting at the point of that, and you can see all the lines. It's not photos, is what I'm saying. And if there's all these satellites floating in space, why haven't they got actual photos? And the answer is because there's no satellites floating in space and the Earth is not a ball. But it's interesting that you can't measure, it's clearly, it's just a video graphic, Google Earth, and they still won't let you measure around the poles. That's interesting because it's just a program, right? They could. Um, but yeah, interesting. Have you tried this? And what do you think this realm is? Like, what is it? Flat, ball, crater, inverted, hollow, infinite plane? Like, we just don't know.
In this book, they were talking about how power lines can power themselves. So what are we paying for is the question. Power lines can power themselves. This is a phenomenal book for anybody to look into. I just figured I'd throw this up here. And Central Park is interesting too because in this book, Lost Science, Nathan B. Stubbenfield was talking about how they couldn't find any energy in Central Park. He tapped his copper rods into the park and he couldn't find a source of free electricity. So it makes you wonder what Central Park is really hiding. There's really big boulders in Central Park, and you're kind of wondering what's underneath those boulders. But Central Park was really pretty. There's a castle, just sitting in the middle of it. Perfectly normal, a gigantic castle with 3 different floors and a bottom floor and all of that. Went to the Met, saw the Met and the steps and that, which is another old world building. Walked all around there, went to an old school bookstore, and that's where I found it was called.
Oh my God, Matt, what was it called? Don't leave me hanging, man. Geez, didn't know it was going to stop like that. Again, that was Matt again from Cultivate Elevate. Go check him out on YouTube. And I think he's on, a few different platforms, but he's got some really good information to do with health and the old world. And there you go, guys. That's another one done. So thanks for spending some time with me. Hope you enjoyed that. Please do leave me your comments, what you think about any or all of these videos. And of course, give me a like, help the algorithm, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this content around. I would appreciate it. And most of all, stay awesome. And I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Can you believe this? 10,000 real eggs cost $2,000. But 10,000 fake eggs cost only $100. That's a mere 20 times difference in cost. And yet, these fake eggs often look even more perfect than real ones. Fried, boiled, or scrambled, they can pass for the real thing. Many people think they're paying extra for organic or eco-friendly eggs, but the truth may be shocking. They're eating a chemical formula disguised as an egg. Bro, the secret lies in factory techniques. First, a transparent, sticky liquid is mixed to imitate the shine and flow of egg whites. Then, a yellow liquid is injected into a mold, perfectly replicating the bubbles and texture of a yolk. Once cooled and solidified, the mixture is coated with a shell made of calcium carbonate powder and adhesive. Crack it open, and it even makes the same crunch sound as a real egg. From start to finish, it takes only a few minutes to produce a perfect fake egg. Served on the table, it can fool almost anyone. But here's the question. If the egg in front of you might be this kind of chemical egg, would you still dare to eat it?